Hey there, YouTubers. This is Kevin from Survivor Super Fun Time Show. Awesome episode of Survivor 48, Episode 8. I mean, as much as you can. Right now, so far, I'm not the biggest fan of Survivor 48, although that's kind of a popular opinion now at the moment. The good news is there's a lot of time left in the season and a lot of potential moves that can be made because one of the biggest, hottest topics of the episode, centering really around like David and Eva and Joe and like the strong and loyal alliance, that's what's really stifling the game at the moment. But fortunately, I think we may have saviors in the future that will be coming, but we're not quite there yet. Now, we're going to talk about the episode, but before we get into it, make sure to hit the subscribe button to the Survivor Super Fun Time Show. We continue to talk about Survivor content, and when we talk about it, we want it to be delivered right to you, and that's why you hit the subscribe button. It'd be perfect. But anyway, getting into the biggest points of the episode, this was kind of an interesting one as a content creator who pays attention to the online discourse about what was going on in the episode. Now, chronologically, we'll try to tackle it. Cedric is going to be on the jury. Say is gone. Ding dong, the witch is dead. Although myself as a fan, I'm disappointed the witch is dead. Now, there isn't a lot of time to sit around and talk about what's the biggest animal you think you could physically fight and take on. Which, by the way, I think the answer is cheetah. I think I could take on a cheetah. Because, yeah, like cheetah are fast, but the question is, it's a fight. If you have to fight each other, what do I think I could possibly kill with my bare hands? I've been around a cheetah before. I was in South Africa and hung around one. And they're kind of little bitches. Let me know down below in the comment section what you think you could take on. Because Joe thinks he could take on an old gorilla. And that's crazy. Anyway, while they're discussing this, they get the tree mail saying, hey, we got to pair up and you got to get in the challenges. And that's where the gorilla slaying Joseph put forth a great idea to basically set everyone up and say, hey, listen, I think we should pick. We need to go hard. We need to just lay it all out there. Who do we want? Shauhin apparently spoke up right away and said, I want Kamilla. And people are already a little afraid that Shauhin and Kamilla were working together pretty closely. So the strong alliance gets a little afraid right there. And Joe believes that he revealed something pretty huge in the future. Then you have some other pairings happen. I mean, obviously, guess who Joe picked? Take a guess. Eva. So those two are together again. Shocker. Guess who David picked? Mary. And then really, in the end, it ended up being like a bunch of people that were just kind of stuck together. I mean, Kyle did choose Chrissy pretty emphatically, which I was surprised by, but that was probably so that he could hide the relationship with Kamilla. Good on him. And then Mitch and Star were pretty much left. Anyway, they go to the challenge, and it's important, these pairings, because it's in 3 phases, and as you advance, there's different implications. If you're one of the 2 teams that ends up losing right away, you have to go on a journey where you have to earn your vote back. And if you're the 3rd one eliminated, you get really nothing happens. You just lose. And then the final 2, you get a taco feast. You get to have taco fun, and you have the opportunity to win individual immunity. Initial pairings of Shauhin, Kamilla, and Star, and Mitch, they lose their votes right away and have to go and do the journey. Kyle and Chrissy, they don't really have any problems. But the strongest pairings, the ones that I anticipated would make it to the end, in David and Mary and Joe and Eva, they make it to the Final 4 where they do the challenge or where you have to hold onto a post for the longest time. Ozzy's challenge, basically. The 2 that I expected to do the best, and Eva and Mary, do. Eva wins the challenge with her fat hockey thighs. And that was no surprise because hockey players have amazing quads, okay? So she won it. She got that necklace around her neck, and they're off to have tacos. And this feast with all 4 of them is important because 1, they're in a big alliance together anyway. And 2, that Eva, in her little individual portion of chips, because they all had individual portions of chips, and they all had name tags where they're supposed to sit, in her bowl of potato chips, she ended up getting a clue to an advantage of some sort, which she reads later on and says, hey, basically, considering you did so good in the challenge today, you have a clue to an advantage. It's going to be secret. Tomorrow night, after Tribal Council, you're going to go to the end of your beach, and that's where you'll find out more information. So Eva, the person who won the immunity necklace, also gets the clue just handed to her in her chip bowl. Now, the question for fans is, at first, including myself, I was like, all right, this is blatant game manipulation. If the only person who can find the clue is the person who you put the name tag in front of their bowl. It's one thing if it was random, like in Survivor 47 last year during the feast, Saul found a clue for an advantage, but it was fair game. Anyone could have gotten it. Anyone. This time, it was specifically in Eva's bowl. Now, it seems like game manipulation. However, the way it seems now, really scrutinizing the clue, they said the way you performed in the challenge. it does imply that the winner was supposed to get the clue. However, all 4 of them kind of won as units, so it could have applied to anyone. But probably the most damning piece of evidence that points in the direction that the winner of the immunity necklace is supposed to get the clue is the fact that it takes place after tribal council, which tells me producers are like, yeah, we want to give it to someone who's actually going to be here next time. There's no guarantee that, Joe, David, or Mary are going to. So we'll give it to the immunity necklace holder. And for sure, they're going to do the production that we laid out. Now I'm thinking it's just standard game manipulation, not gross manipulation. Anyway, that feast is pretty crucial because during that time, that's when Mary's like, listen, I'm a little afraid of Shauhin, but I'm mostly afraid of Shauhin because of his relationship with Kamilla. So we need to get rid of Kamilla. And David is like, Mary's right. We need to get rid of Kamilla now, I think. And the problem is, like, the laser beams are shooting all over the place, and Joe is not particularly down for the Kamilla things. He actually thinks it's pretty random. So he's flexible but resistant in this moment. And Eva's probably going to do whatever Joe says. So that plan is, like, sort of hatched, of course, but that's going to be a surprise for Kyle when he finds out later. He finds out the plan from Joe when they return from the whole feast, and Kyle's not into it. He's like, no, dude, that sounds crazy. I don't understand what he's doing. And Kyle even has a discussion with David and says, yeah, what's the plan? And David says, Kamilla. And Kyle's like, what's the reasoning? Why? Secretly, Kyle wants Kamilla around because that's his tightest ally. But Kyle can't reveal that, unlike David, who is blatantly saying, in one breath, you're into the strong 5, right? The 5's all that matters. Then the next breath, he says, Mary's with me, strong 6. We're in the strong 6. So he doesn't mind bringing his girl along. But Kyle could, I guess, say Kamilla is my girl, but he's not doing that. So the resistance from Kyle seems like a little too much from the perspective of David. So Kyle's kind of blowing it in a way, but he's also fighting for his ally. He's fighting for his best interest. So I actually gave major kudos to Kyle, although it could have screwed him. And of course he lets Kamilla know, and Camilla's freaking out, but Kamilla also knows that probably the best way to deal with this is by not trying to directly change things up too dramatically, because Chrissy is the obvious vote. Chrissy was the obvious vote until Camilla's name came out. And it's her role in that situation to let Kyle do work on behalf of her. And if anything really crazy is going to happen, Kyle lets her know, and they try basically a Hail Mary at Tribal Council. But they don't have to, because Chrissy did that. But anyway, before we do any of that Tribal Council stuff, we have to talk about the journey where Mitch, Star, Kamilla, and Shauhin are fighting to save their vote. One person is going to leave this challenge without their vote. And basically, it's this like Mario Party game where there's a whole string of balls, and you have to pick the right balls, and you can choose 1 or 2, and you don't want to get a red ball instead of a gray ball. By the time you get 3 red balls, you're out, and that's the one who loses their vote. So you can manipulate who's going to get which ball depending on where you're at in the order of ball receiving. And Kamilla was really good with the balls, and Shauhin, excellent at the balls. I don't know if there was anyone better at it during this challenge. Star, not good with balls. Decidedly not good with balls. And Mitch, so-so with balls. Because when it all came down to it, Star had the most balls all up in her space. And unfortunately, that means Star, a person who I actually didn't think was much of a threat, she lost her vote. So, all because of a pair of balls. But admittedly, this challenge probably didn't really have much of an impact on what happened in Tribal Council that night, because it kind of turned into a dog pile on Chrissy. And it turned into a dog pile mainly because Chrissy opened her big mouth and said, hey, we need to look at the strong guys, the strong alliance. We need to look at David. We need to look at Joe and Eva. And everyone knows that. I mean, Kamilla even dogged David. As soon as she heard her name, she dogged him pretty hard and said, why did this idiot even sign up for Survivor? Why didn't he just sign up for the Olympics with Joe and Eva and say, let's just do Olympic challenges? Which, as a viewer, I don't think is very fair, because I think actually Dave is pretty nice. And, Joe, Eva, and David are in charge right now, so they're doing pretty okay, right? But at the same time, this is an alliance that can't last. Like, Chrissy opened her big mouth and got her voted out that night, but she also said some stuff that people probably needed to hear. So, yes, she's going to be kind of a martyr figure, but is certainly going to impact the game. I mean, there's other people who are probably already looking at, like a David, for example, and they're already thinking it's just a matter of time when they're going to be cut down. It's one thing to be a part of the army. It's like, listen, I'll be a part of your army, but remember, the general that rides on the white horse is the first one who gets shot. And I think David is the one riding the horse, especially when he's declaring that he's bringing Mary into the alliance. David he had a tough go of it. This was not a good tribal council for David. Obviously, he survived it and he was in the majority, but that fight between Chrissy and him, just a little bit of a bicker, he certainly, from the fans' standpoint, did not come off great. A visual of him fighting with a woman who's on the bottom, as him, a man on top, a really strong guy, saying, men who are really strong are victimized in the game. It's like, how dare you imply that we have not been victims this whole time? So a hot take of mine is I actually think David is very right in his opinion on how strong guys are used typically in the game of Survivor. Typically, they don't get that far. And a lot of people will get really snarky with you and say, how about all of Survivor between season 30 and season 40? Well, I have arguments against all of those things. I mean, if you're going to say it's strong guy supremacy and they can navigate through the game easily during that time, the game is set up for them to succeed, I have major arguments with that. Your biggest new era winning challenge beast is Rachel from 47, and she certainly doesn't fit the archetype that David was talking about and Chrissy was talking about. So really, I just think it's a much more nuanced argument of what David was saying. He's like, yeah, people like to use us and abuse us, essentially. And I think he's right about that. However, at the same time, Chrissy's 100% right. Like, it's obvious. You need to take a shot at this alliance. And I do have umbrage with the idea that nobody's playing the game when they don't take advantage of that alliance. It's like, well, it's not that. It's just timing is everything, It's perspective rules the game. That's the key. If you can play Survivor and you're willing to understand what's going on in the shoes of the other person, then you're probably going to be more successful. As I listen to their arguments, they're bickering back and forth at Tribal. It's just a matter of perspective. David naturally should think she's being ridiculous and that they're unfair targets because he's the guy at the top of the game who's been vulnerable like 0 times. And Chrissy, naturally, should be upset with the order of things, and she should think that everyone should be turning all their guns immediately at David and Joe and Eva because she's on the bottom. And they're both equally correct in their perspectives. Now, from the fandom, that's a different story. Fandom tends to really hate guys just as an auto default. So David's going to look worse in this instance. However, I think they both have points. Although I will say it did rub me wrong the way David talked to Kyle during this episode. The idea that, Kyle, why are you ever complicating it? Because in David's mind, I already made the decision, buddy. I listened to Mary, and I deemed that this is the best decision. We're getting rid of Kamilla. Whether you were there or not for the discussion, irrelevant. Decision was already made. So fall in line, Kyle. And Kyle, he's a strong guy. He's not going to do that. He fought as much as he could. He objected incredibly, and it looks like he got his way because they voted out Chrissy. I don't think David's an incredibly smart player, but I don't think he's a dick either. So I don't have a problem with David in the game. I'm kind of curious to see how it goes. I'm sure he's going to get booted soon enough because I think he's playing with a lot of naivete, which is going to be detrimental to his game in the end because he's got a lot of really sharp people around him that are going to take him out, and he doesn't know it. I fully plan on Kyle or Kamilla winning this game. I just can't wait to see how the pieces move in order for it to happen. I think the shine of him is completely off. There were a few episodes where I was thinking David could win this game based on how much the edit loves him, but no shot. It's over. Well, he's going to get taken out. Mary's probably going to be in a good position. Mary can just be like, well, I was just under the influence of the majority alliance. I'll do whatever. And she's going to be the side piece for someone new. Oh, yeah. And also for season 50, there's always a vote. This is the 3rd round. Jeff let us vote so graciously on whether or not tribes should have their supplies or what the immunity necklace should look like. And no, I hate it only because it's a season called In the Hands of the Fans. And for some reason, we are not able to vote for any of the things that actually matter, like the cast. There's starting tribes, what the challenges should be. Probst does not think that we're capable of handling that. So we get to vote on tribe colors and stuff. So yay. But ultimately it doesn't matter. They're going to make up the answers of whatever they want. So it just vote or don't vote. It doesn't matter. But that option B for the necklace was fire though. But that's my recap on the episode and some of my hot take opinions. Cannot wait to see what goes on moving forward. It's still kind of a dud of a season, to be honest. I need Kyle to get moving. I need Kamilla. I need Shauhin. I need Joe and Eva to do something wild. I need the split, okay? I need something wild to go down in order to make this game much better than it already is. Otherwise, that's going to do it. I hope you have an amazing day, everyone. You take care. Goodbye.